So day 16, just did some work this morning, then I went out for a tiny little walk to get some fresh air, and now it's back to the desk. I'm doing a bit of client acquisition work, just doing some outreach, following up with some leads. So yeah, also have a lot of plans for making more videos and really making better YouTube videos. So yeah, a lot of stuff that needs to be done today, but hopefully I will finish this day a bit earlier than the other days so I can get to bed early. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit about my monk mode protocol, because I did talk about it in the first video of this series, but I think I just want to follow up on it and give some more insight into my protocol and the thoughts that I have around it and how I feel about it so far. Now a bit more than 2 weeks into this monk mode. And yeah, maybe give some inspiration for how to build out your protocol. Now, first and foremost, why do you need a specific protocol for the monk mode? In my opinion, I think that's the whole point of a monk mode or anything like this. You need to have it defined pretty clearly. So you need to know exactly what you need to do every day and what the requirements are for a successful day. Now the reason for that is it needs to be hard. So it needs to be something that is not easy for you to keep doing. So you have to push yourself, because that's the only way you can grow. It has to be difficult. That being said, you don't need to overcomplicate it. Like, to do it consistently for 30 to 60 days is gonna be very hard. In the beginning, it might be fine. Even if you make it super complex, you might survive a few weeks, but it gets really hard when you get 3 or 4 weeks into it. So you don't need to make it that hard. The goal is obviously to succeed, and then the next time you can do it, you can add something on. But in my opinion, I think it's best to start pretty simple. So for me, my monk mode is suited for my business growth. So that's kind of how I build up my protocol to suit that. So every day I wake up and I do a bit of journaling in my little journal here. And I just write down what I did the day before. So sometimes I do this when I'm in bed before the next day. And at the end of the day, I write down what I did. Sometimes I forget to do it in bed, so I do it in the morning instead. And then I kind of reflect on what I did yesterday and kind of set the goals for that day. So that's usually how I start the day. And then I always start with the goal of doing 3 hours of deep work. So sometimes it might be just 1.5 hours, sometimes it's 2 hours, and sometimes I go all the way to 3 hours and a bit more even. But rarely do I go above 3 hours, because at that point my mind isn't that productive anymore. And the reason why I do that is because working out and starting the day with like a morning routine with exercise and stuff, it's very good and very beneficial. But for me, it has become a way for me to procrastinate and postpone my work into later in the day. And then it gets harder to get going. So the best thing for me personally is to just start the day with the hardest thing, and that is to sit down and start working, start talking to clients, start following up on tasks, and start doing client acquisition work and sales and those kind of things. That's the hard part for me to get started with. So if I just start the days with that, I get more momentum and I'm more likely to be successful for that day with the whole protocol. Some other things that I have is exercise every day, and that could be very simple. It could be just a tiny run, a little bit of yoga. Some days it's more hard exercise with like strength training and a longer run. But so far I haven't really been doing that much hard exercise. It's just to get my heart rate up and get off the desk and get some movement in, so I don't end up losing muscle and being negatively affected by working this much. And it's also obviously a lot for the mental aspect. Working out is really beneficial for just sustaining focus and sustaining an emotional balance, because if you get your emotions out of balance and you don't feel joy, creativity, and those kind of things anymore, it's really hard to sustain that for a long period of time. So by working out, I balance out my emotions and I can be more consistent. And some other things that I added on to that is doing sauna at least 3 times per week. So I bought a tent sauna. I have some videos on my channel where I show you that. It's not that expensive actually. I bought it for around $1,400-1,500 bucks, so US dollars. And it's super beneficial. It's firewood. So I just buy some wood and throw it in the oven and fire up the sauna, and then I get it up to probably like 80, almost 90 degrees in there. So very beneficial. And after, I just did a sauna this evening, and it feels so amazing after. So it's another way of balancing out the emotional impacts of working this long hours. Another thing that I do is cold water exposure. This is also just this is absolutely amazing. So a cold shower or jumping in the water after some sauna or some workout, and it's so beneficial. It helps me sleep, helps me relax. I can't recommend it enough. It's really so beneficial. Some rules is no social media, obviously. So I do a bit of social media like Twitter and stuff, and posting a bit there and engaging a bit, but it's not, it should always be a thought behind going on social media. So for me, it's usually just for learning. So on Twitter, I do follow a lot of accounts that just post updates on marketing stuff. So it's not really for entertainment. It's mostly to go in there and learn and get inspiration. And the same with YouTube. I use YouTube as a source of learning. So when I go onto YouTube and watch a video, it's usually because I have something I want to learn or something I need to get better at or figure out at that moment. It's not that I go in and I scroll through the feed and get sucked into something. It's usually a whole thought behind it. So that's 2 rules there. Another rule is only movies like 3 to 4 times per week before bed, and the other days I want to read before I go to bed. So I think movies are okay. Now, this is obviously, the best would be to just read every evening, obviously, but I think some forms of logging off and a bit of relaxing and get away from your work a bit is actually beneficial. I feel that. I might be wrong. It's different. It's probably different for a lot of people, but I feel that it's fine to watch some movies. And for me, so far, the movies I've watched is been just beneficial. It's been inspirational. Watched a lot of movies that have some depth to them. It's not just like reality shows or empty stuff. It's usually something that has some depth to it. So yeah, feel like that's been very beneficial. And obviously reading. So reading before bed. So I either read something totally not related to work, or sometimes I read something that's specific to something that I want to learn at the moment. So that depends on what mood I'm in and what state I'm in. The point is just to read, to get really tired and get a good night's of sleep. So yeah, another thing that I haven't put down here is trying to get up at the same time every morning. So almost every day, except I think 2 or 3 days, I've gotten up at 8 or earlier. And yeah, that's been also super beneficial. At some point, it's just not hard to wake up that early anymore when you've done it for enough days in a row. And yeah, it's way easier to wake up and just get right to work if you're not super tired. So some mornings I am tired, but it's not like it doesn't affect me that much. I wake up pretty quickly, even though I'm just sitting down and working and not really working out or anything. So yeah, that's my monk mode protocol, and I hope you found it maybe inspirational, maybe informational. But yeah,